I'm deeply sorry for everything these families have been put through, up to including my involvement and everything that this district attorney has put them through. He's an actor. He's, quite frankly, he's a clown, but he expects people to believe what comes out of his mouth. That's it for now.
And thank you, Mr. Saccone. This case has come to this point as a result of a plea agreement that was made between Mr. Saccone, his attorney at the time, the people of the state of New York, the district attorney's office, and was approved by this court. And this court is going to enforce that agreement today. An agreement that was negotiated by your prior attorney, Mr. Saccone, and frankly, an agreement that is sparing you the potential of many years in prison if you were convicted of the higher offenses. To some degree, that's been lost in the litigation that's occurred over the last few months. But first of all, the court has looked at the record of the plea, and the court affirms its decision again that the plea was knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily made without any evidence of coercion. And it was an agreement that your prior attorney negotiated, and although it may not feel beneficial to you, was favorable to the defense and to you, Mr. Saccone, in many ways. I want to thank the families of Bailey and Michael and Samra who've been here at every court appearance, and those of you who spoke today. There's nothing that this court can say that really can lessen your pain in any way. But I want you to know that you have my sympathy, and I am very sorry for your loss. I appreciate your words today. I appreciate everything you've said. And I cannot imagine the pain that you've gone through as mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles suffering this tremendous loss. Anyone can make a mistake. Anyone can make a series of bad decisions. Anyone can commit crimes. But this case illustrates, as much as any that I have seen in my 30 years as an attorney, that illustrates how one bad choice after another, after another, after another, with so many opportunities to stop, can result in just horrific loss. And I think it would be normal for the families of Bailey, Michael, and Samra to think to themselves, what could I have done to protect my son or daughter? What could I have done to protect my sister? And as Samra's younger sister, as she spoke through today, as those words were relayed, she would have protected her sister. And I think everyone can understand that. But let me say this to you. When someone is a victim of a crime, whether it's a small crime or a crime like this, it's just so vast and deep in its scope, there's nothing that you can do to avoid it. It's not your fault. Please don't blame yourselves. The responsibility for what happened on February 23rd, 2018 lies squarely at the feet of Anthony Saccone and no one else. Please remember that when you look back and you try to, and you have that thought of maybe blaming for yourselves of what you could have done to protect the members of your family and your loved ones. It's not your fault. It's Anthony Saccone's fault. Mr. Saccone, your comments today, in this court's mind, one of the most significant things from that night was leaving the scene. And after what had happened, leaving those young people alone to die. Today you focused most of your comments on Mr. Fitzpatrick and other matters, but I suggest that it might be a little more beneficial to look inward and look at your own actions and evaluate that yourself, because it seems to this court that you just don't get it. Maybe someday you will. I hope that you do. Based upon your conviction by way of guilty plea, the sentence and judgment of this court is as follows. With respect to the third count in the indictment, operating a motor vehicle while ability impaired by the combined influence in alcohol and drug, which is a misdemeanor offense. It's a sentence and judgment of the court that you'll be sentenced to a 1-year incarceration sentence in the Onondaga County Correctional Facility. That sentence to be served concurrently, meaning at the same time as the other sentences the court is about to impose, and that will merge by operation of law. With respect to count 8 in the indictment, aggravated vehicular homicide, violation of section 125.14, subdivision 4 of the penal law of the state of New York. It's a sentence and judgment of the court that you be sentenced to an indeterminate sentence of 8 to 24 years in a New York State correctional facility. That sentence is to be served consecutively with a sentence in count 9, leaving the scene of an incident without reporting in violation of section 602A of the Vehicle and Traffic Law of the state of New York. Sentence on count 9, leaving the scene without reporting, is an indeterminate sentence of 2 to 6 years in New York State Correctional Facility. That sentence is to be served consecutively to the 8 to 24, which means an aggregate sentence of 10 to 30 years. The sentence on the first count is again concurrent with those sentences. There's also mandatory conditions with respect to these. Due to the nature of the offense, the court's imposing a 1-year license revocation, along with the impaired driver program, the ignition interlock conditions, and the court is imposing mandatory fees and surcharges totaling $560. That concludes the sentence and judgment of the court.